main difference if we compare it with other parties.
Like similar to your ideas, to your ideology.
We can imagine
Parties somehow copying your ideological stance.
different from what we are having today in our parliament.
Like, why should I vote for your party as not educated, let's say?
And second thing, they should take care about what they promised during the election campaign.
Hello from Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Welcome to our another podcast. We are having today a representative of Adalat Party. He is Abdulhalim Bahram. Currently, he is working as a director of Institute for Oriental Studies under the Academy of Science of Uzbekistan. Welcome to our podcast.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to today's meeting or podcast, as you called it. I am very happy to be here with you and to discuss questions which is arising today. And we are approaching very important event, political event in Uzbekistan. And this event is happening when Uzbekistan is completely different what it was several years ago. And now there is very important understanding all around the world connected with Uzbekistan and people, and some experts calling Uzbekistan new Uzbekistan. That's why, and the election it will be, we hope will be different from those which was before. And as a member of the Adalat Party, we are also hoping to have good results from this coming elections.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. To kick off our discussion, let's first start with the background of the party itself. Like, what is Adalat Party? Like, what are the main values of your party? And if we compare with other parties, what are the main differences?
Okay, and if we compare Adalat Party with other parties existing in our days in Uzbekistan, as you know, we have 5 parties, and Adalat Party is one of them. And it was established in 1995. Now we are around 30 years old. And if we look back to the history of this party, there are instead of the 30 years, it was some kind of achievements, and now number of the members of parliament is more than 20, which is good result for the Adalat Party and for this short time. And the main idea and the main ideology of our party is social democracy. This is main difference if we compare it with other parties and in Uzbekistan. And you know, social democracy is international ideology, and there are a number of parties all around the world which are keeping this ideology. There are a number of the very developed countries in European countries like Germany, in France, in the Russian Federation. So, and social democracy is ideology, is main value of Adalat Party. Majority of values connected with this ideology, like justice, and we call, the name of our party is Adalat. We are trying to the social justice in our society, in Uzbek society, and at the same time equality and freedom of speech and freedom of, so all these values which is available in the social democratic ideology, we are trying to be to keep these traditions.
Thank you for providing this background information about the party. But still, if we just put ourselves into the shoes of average people. Whenever there is a discussion about the parliament, elections, they say, oh, there's no difference among those five parties. Or let's say there's no, like, let's say the People's Democratic Party, among people we call the HDP, right? It's abbreviation of the party. Seems almost similar to that of, like, similar to your ideas, to your ideology. Can we see the difference between the two?
This is a very important question which was raised by you. And I should say, you're right when you are saying in the ideology of the HDP and the Social Democratic Party is very close each other, especially in terms of the building of social state. Because in the Adalat Party and the HDP Party, both of them trying, both of them declaring that one of the main ideas is social state which will support population of the country. At the same time, I should say, if we look history of the social democracy, and our party is close because the social state belongs to the Social Democratic Party, not HDP party, in the history of the in the world experience. And at the same time, we should know that from where came HDP. HDP came from the former Communist Party, and yes, and now we compare both of them. And when Adalat Party was established, the idea of this party was chosen the exactly social democracy. And we can imagine, for example, parties outside of Uzbekistan, and I mean the other parties in the countries like in European countries, first of all Germany, and they're supporting this idea, and they reached quite a good level of the achievement in their political career. In any case, if we compare both of them, priority should belong to the Adalat, because our name is Social Democratic Party. We are carrying the idea of social state.
Can I say that People's Democratic Party is somehow copying your ideological stance? And another question I'm interested in, maybe people will also be, our subscribers will also be interested in seeing, are there alliances? Do you make alliances in the parliament? For example, you are forging certain issues, and let's say you're ideologically you are close to each other, but do you build alliance in order to withstand other parties? Does it work like that?
I would like to answer to the first part of your question when you said, are they copying the idea from the program of the Social Democratic Party? And of course, HDP and we are using experiences of the parties. That's why we have close suggestions in both of them, which is very, but for my understanding, majority ideas which is available now, and the priority should be given to the party of Adalat, because we established this party according to the social democratic ideas. And now, if we compare programs of the HDP and Adalat, both of them giving one of the priority to the establishment of or building of the social state. But this idea was from the first day of establishment of the Social Democratic Party Adolat. In terms of the HDP, I am not sure.
Okay.
They had this idea in their some kind of agenda.
So, I'm not taking any party side, but I think I mentioned in our previous podcast as well. One problem among these youngsters or in general people is that sometimes they misperceive the activity of the parliament. So whenever they approach to MPs, they ask to solve their personal issues, while they forget that the main function of the parliament is lawmaking, right? This is not an executive body of the state, right? It makes law. People misperceive them. Using this opportunity that you were ahead of this party and you have connections in the parliament, I would love to make a suggestion. For example, when I was studying at the University of World Economy and Diplomacy, one of very few universities focusing on political science, right? I interned in the parliament. In Ali Majlis, it was, so I saw it is defended with fences. It was really difficult to enter the building. So I think we should look at how in Europe or in the West this parliament function. For example, they have open days. I don't know if the parliament has it or not. Parliaments have open days so that people come see the practice of or the work, the process of your jobs in the parliament. That could be one suggestion for the parliament. Thank you.
Okay, and just I would like to say I very respect the University of World Economy Diplomacy, and one of the leading universities in Uzbekistan, and I know people who graduate from that university. In majority cases, they are very talented people, and this university. From one side, it's international diplomacy. Another side is economical issues. Both of them very important for each country, including the Uzbekistan. In terms of the your question related to the activity of parliament and the position of the some people in Uzbekistan towards the activity of parliament. And you are right when you are saying people are raising questions to the parliament, maybe ordinary questions like, for example, no light in their homes.
Exactly. Yeah.
There are problems with medical care, small things. I know main activity of the parliament is legislation, working on the law and activities like connected with those questions which I said. Is government of Uzbekistan should care and they should do this job. At the same time, I would like to say, in the parliament in other countries, you mentioned several other countries in Europe or maybe in the United States. If we look to the history of this parliament, they were established, built maybe 100, 200, 300 years ago. And that's why in traditions and job activity, it is different from what we are having today in our parliament. But at the same time, I would like to compare what was today and what we had maybe some 10, 20 and 30 years. And during the Soviet period, I'm not going to speak anything because we know the situation. Parliament in Uzbekistan is doing also progressing from year to year, and activity of members of parliament, they are of course different. You know, parliament is doing two jobs. One of them, they're creating new laws, and second thing, they should take care about what they promised during the election campaign. In majority cases, when they visiting with the supporters and the organizing meeting, majority people raising these kind of questions. Before to came here, I also met with supporters, and they also raised me questions like there are problems with transportation, there are no buses, there are only one bus to reach to the job. There are problems, very long queues in the medical establishments in Tashkent city. I visited today Sergeli, which I am planning to do my electoral activity. So that's why member of parliament, in addition their legislative activity, they should do this kind of jobs.
You said one, not decision, but a way of solving this problem. Like people ask inappropriate questions sometimes, right? Scrub, maybe you had this experience, but I didn't. For example, from schools, we, like our teachers, collect us and we go, for example, we went to different types of museums, right? We had this kind of experience in school time. But we never had an experience going to, let's say, Adalat Party's headquarters in order to visit what they are doing there. Or we never had a visit, for example, to the parliament in order to observe what parliament MPs are doing there. So that kind of educational programs could be very helpful in order to enlighten the people that, legislative body is a legislative body. We are doing laws, we're making laws, but we're not an executive body. So those kind of questions should be addressed to other parts of government's body, for example.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, and of course we should take into the consideration that all laws which was signed by a legislation body, it should be implemented. Sometimes problem is arising during the implementation of these laws. We have very good laws, and they sound very modern, they sound very internationally recognized, but sometimes there are problems during the implementation of those laws which was already accepted.
I have another question. When we speak of the history of Adalat Party, we speak of 3 decades, 90s, early 2000, and today. Each decade brings new challenges, new issues, and new generation, of course. How does Adalat Party adjust to a new generation? And then how does Adalat Party tackle those challenges?
Of course, history of Adalat Party back to the beginning of the 90s, when we talk about the activity of Adalat, in some period of the time, we should take first of all into the consideration in what condition was Uzbekistan itself, And beginning of 19th, situation in Uzbekistan was completely different. It was some kind of beginning of our independence. We had that time different problems. We had different mentality. We had at the same time different people, because it was at that time. Activity of Adalat was in some extent close for those problems which was at that time. For example, at that time, if we look to the program of Adalat, we could find there are very few ideas connected with the rule of law, building of the state, rule of law. And the same situation we should take into the consideration in terms of the second stage, which was mentioned by you. And Uzbekistan, it was in the just middle of the changes happening in the political, economical, and cultural issues. Now we have completely different Uzbekistan, which was mentioned by me in the beginning of our talk. And we have completely different people, not all of them, maybe majority people now, especially we have already younger generation of the people with, who are very open-minded, and some people who was in the beginning of the 90s, they originally came from the former Soviet Union. Sometimes it is very difficult to, we can change our car, we can change our home, but to change,
mindset, right?
not change mentality of our mind.
Thank you, Professor. Now, this leads us to another fundamental question, which is, who's your electorate? Taking into account those changing generations, coming and going, changing times and the decades that you mentioned, who is your main electorate, and do they change, and what are their age limits, age range, and why do they have to vote for you?
As a citizen of Uzbekistan, I am very happy that Uzbekistan is changing, and Uzbekistan is doing very important steps. And in terms of the people, supporters of Adolat, and the main people who are supporting social democratic ideology is educated people, and from Uzbekistan. At the same time, we are working with the rest of the population of Uzbekistan. And you show, as I mentioned it, firstly, Adolat Party was supported by the medical people in Uzbekistan, and until now we have huge supporters of our party is people from the medical area, and doctors, other people working in this sphere. And the second large number of membership is educated people in the field of the law, and the University of Law, and the majority people. And as a new constitution of Uzbekistan, which was adopted last year, Uzbekistan is first of all sovereign, democratic, and social state, and the rule of the law state and the secular state. That's why two of the category which is available in this new constitution, they're supporting widely idea of Uzbekistan, which is people close to the social based state and the state rule of the law. So this, we very much hope this category of the people will support Adolat Party in coming elections.
Professor, you said that your electorate is mostly educated people, right?
Yes.
But yeah, like maybe I mentioned this issue 1,000 times in previous podcasts, but I still, like, I'm skeptical about this five existing like parties in terms of as if you are functioning in a division of labor type of system where, for example, there are thematic parties such as Ecological Party or Milli Tklanış. They focus mostly on, let's say, Milli Tklanış targets identity, language, ecology, traditions, ecology, focus on ecological issues. Like, what about others? Let's say I'm not educated. Let's pretend it for a second. Let's say I'm not educated, I'm from a business community. Doesn't mean that when I go to the polling station, when I see the Adolat's emblem, like, or comparing other parties, like, why should I vote for your party as not educated, let's say?
You know, not educated people may vote for everything, but we very much hope and our activity spread and widen our supporters during the election. You know, and I very respect and the other parties because we are colleagues, we are doing competition, but at the same time, our ideology of social democracy is already existed in the other countries of the world. You know, and there are some countries in the world which gained a very huge level of the development basing on this ideology. And that's why we are mostly concentrating on the educated people, and you know, in each country, educated people, their main locomotive of the development of those countries. But at the same time, we don't need forget rest of the population. And you asked me why other people should vote for a party of Adolat. One of the main idea we are trying to bring to our society justice, freedom of speech, which is elements of the democratic institution, democratic countries. And history already tested that without gaining these kind of issues like democracy, freedom of speech, and justice and equality, it is not possible to get a higher level of the development. That's why we very much hope the main ideas of the social democratic ideology, which is already existed in the world experience, will support us in our political activity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I have another question. You have just mentioned that Uzbekistan is a social state in which prevails rule of law, and also it's a secular state. And by the way, congratulations that you have brought this up to the level of the constitution. But does it mean that the mission complete for Adolat Party? Do we still need Adolat Party after this change in the constitution? And if yes, and what does this article means for Adolat constitution? What's the next phase?
Okay. Thank you very much, but I should mention I am not agree with you, and that function when we declared our country as a country of the social basis country or country with rule of law, we are just put it this kind of ideas for us to implement them in our society, and I should say we are in the beginning and starting position to implement of these ideas in our society. You know, we have number of our population who needs social support from the government. We know there are some category of people very rich in our society. At the same time, there are rest of the people and another part of the population. They need support from the government.
Which is the majority, right?
Yes, exactly. Which is the majority, which should be supported by the government during the moving from the market economy in Uzbekistan. This is the first part. And the second part, which is connected with the establishment of the state ruled by the laws, we are again, and we not confirm that we already finished this activity. All of the ideas or laws which is accepted by the parliament, they should work, function, and the people should feel this implementation of this law. That's why, and if country will be reached the higher level of the rule of the law, in all probabilities, there will not be any problems in terms of economy, social activity, and so on in agriculture. But now we have number of the questions, number of the problems which should be solved by the government, and which will be ruled by the law accepted by the new parliament of Uzbekistan.
Summing up your point, just correct me if I'm wrong. So you're saying that amending the constitution is not an end in itself, right? So now your party within the parliament will be trying to tailoring the whole system, government system, to ensure that we have a social state, right? So moving to the following question, again about the division of labor, like, do you have anything on your agenda about ecological issues? It's a pressing issue, especially in Tashkent, right? So are there anything about solving those ecological issues in Uzbekistan?
I would like back to that question for adding one idea. The first idea of the Uzbekistan is a social country and country with the rule of justice. It was the idea of in some extent, idea of the party of Social Democratic Party of Adalat, and that's why raising these both questions, we planned to work further in order to reach that level, which is close to the social government and the government of the ruled by the laws. Now, in terms of ecology, and I know the situation is not very good in terms of ecology, and we have number of the problems and connected with the Aral Sea. We have some kind of obstacles in terms of the building
Air pollution, right?
Air pollution, and we have number of the transports here in Tashkent, which number of which is rising. That's why I think all five parties have their own solutions in terms of the ecological problems in Uzbekistan, partly in Tashkent. And air pollution firstly depends on the two things. First of all, availability of the sea and oceans, which we don't have. And second thing is green trees, availability of number of the trees. That's why ideas which is put in the program of the Adalat and the festival to put as much as possible trees. And second thing, we should put more taxes for those industrial factories which is producing bad air. And
I mean goods that are affecting negatively to the air, to the atmosphere?
Yes. We should put taxes for them, and these taxes should be very higher. Otherwise they will continue. People try to have fresh air at the same time. They're producing a lot of dust of some kind of bad air. At the same time, we are proposing, for example, in Tashkent, to reduce number of the cars and creating special areas for the bikers, and population should use, not always they should use their cars, and this is some kind of experience which is available in those countries which had this kind of problems. So we have several ideas in our program which is connected with cleaning of the ecological situation, first of all in Tashkent city, And in addition, I think taking into the consideration a low, small number of the water, we should teach people to spend water according to their needs, you know. And for example, there are very big developed countries in Europe, but they're also doing less expenditure than we, having no sea here in Uzbekistan. So this kind of suggestions we have in our program.
Thank you. Let's move to our concluding question. We normally ask about the foreign policy agenda. So, what's in your agenda with regard to the foreign policy of Uzbekistan?
Cooperation with the foreign countries plays very important role in the development of all countries, including Uzbekistan. That's why a special chapter was devoted in our program regarding the activity of Uzbekistan in the international issues. And now, as you know, Uzbekistan is very actively participating in this international cooperation. And in our further activity is, and Uzbekistan, first of all, very support regional activity, you know, and we have, for us, priority should be countries which neighboring and around us. So secondly, at the same time, we will continue to support Uzbekistan's policy of neutrality, focusing on the building of strong diplomatic, economic, and cultural relations with other countries. At the same time, we should continue our active participation within this kind of big internationally recognized organizations like United Nations, Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe,